Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Good afternoon. Welcome all to the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular.
Hola!
Hello, everybody. Welcome all. 368 in the in the YouTube chat to start out the day. Looking at a little over 150 in the Rumble chat to start the day. We are here at a special 2 p.m. time slot today because I do turn 37 years young today, so it is my birthday. Thank you very much for all those who've sent birthday wishes already. Much appreciated. This is a great opportunity to shower me with the gift of money in the form of Super Chats and Rumble Rants. We don't have Jake on the show today because it's a day show. It's a Friday day show. But some people ask that over on Rumble. If Jake is there, Jake is not here, but I do have the Rumble chat window open so I can see all you guys over there. Thank you guys very much for that, and thank you for accommodating the 2 p.m. time slot. Pleasure to be here. A lot to do. Russell has put in a Broadway week this week. Broadway schedule. 7 shows in 6 days for Russell Dobular since he did the full RBN post-duopoly show, and then he was on Jimmy's show yesterday.
Yeah, and your wife took you to the nice strip club, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
We went to Saratoga
one nice
Springs.
strip club in that area, Diamond Lil's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
she
well,
took him
I'll
to
have to
Diamond
recommend
Lil's.
that one next time. No, she didn't know about that one. You'll have to let her know. She could take me there next year.
That's the one where they have teeth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a little more expensive than what we're used to.
I remember it from my Albany days.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember it well. Half the actresses I knew worked there.
Yeah, there you go. No, we went to Saratoga Springs last night. We did a little staycation there. The reason we did it last night and not tonight is because it's a lot cheaper to get a hotel in Saratoga on the weekday than it is on a Friday night. So that's why we did the birthday eve into the birthday rather than the birthday into the day after the birthday. But it was a lot of fun. So thank you, Amanda, for doing that for me. And we all had a great time. And
So sign up for Patreon so that next year they can actually go to a nice hotel on Keaton's birthday.
If it should happen to fall in
Instead
a
of
weekend.
well, it will. Next year it'll be on Saturday.
Next year it'll be on Saturday. That's right, because that's the way it goes.
All right. So sign up to Patreon so that Keaton's wife can take him to the hotel on a weekend.
On a weekend, yes. We're hoping to get enough money saved up for a weekend hotel room next year. That's our goal. That's our goal. We will have done well if we can do that.
We're just little people with a little dream, Doc.
With a little dream. Exactly. Exactly. That's the way it goes. That's the way it is. I think
nice,
Beethoven was born on the 15th, too. I think there are a couple other famous birthdays on the 15th. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. He was either the 15th or the 16th. He's right around this time. But thank you all very, very much for being here.
Was it nice? Was the hotel nice?
It was great. Yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice. It's the Adelphi Hotel in Saratoga. Really nice, kind of old-fashioned hotel. Really cool. Just, dinner, hotel room, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was really nice. No, Saratoga is an amazing little town. It really is. Like Broadway and Saratoga Springs, that's like 6th Avenue going up through the village. Like it really is that built up. And like it's a great main strip with all these great little side streets and things to do. It really is like being in like the central village, like the Bleecker Street, 6th Avenue area. It really is. It's a beautiful town. I love Saratoga. And it's not that far from where we are. So it's a perfect kind of staycation destination.
Okay, but does it have the charm that the village hasn't had for decades, or is it like the village now?
It's more like the village now. I mean, the thing about Saratoga is it's the same way with like Lexington, Kentucky, like all these horse
towns. Time this has happened this week. We keep talking about things that are on my shirt.
On your shirt, yeah, that's a Greenwich Village bar, yeah. No, Saratoga has always been a kind of more upscale town because of the horses there. There's the racetrack there.
Right,
where there's horses, there's money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Lexington, Kentucky's the same way.
Well, didn't they have like an old spa? Like a spa from back in like the Kellogg Road to Wellville days?
Yeah, there is a spa
like a Victorian spa.
There's also a beautiful state park there with a music venue, SPAC, great outdoor concert arena. So yeah, there's a lot going on up in Saratoga. It's not right around the corner from us, but it's easily doable. So that was a lot of fun. But thank you all very much for being here. We definitely wanted to do a show today. We did not want to skip the show today. 5:37 filing in on YouTube, 2:11 filing in on Rumble. See a bunch of you guys.
Do you have a? Did you put a typo in the description?
Goes
and all the birthday excitement.
Oh, in the description, not in the title. Yeah, there's probably a typo in there. I buy that.
Fair enough.
I buy that. As long as it's not in the title, then we can live with that. I'll fix it later. But thank you for the heads up. Appreciate that. And thank you. We've already gotten hit up with some lovely super chats here. So thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And we will get to everything in due time. But I did turn 37 years old today. And so, birthdays are a great time to reminisce, right? It's a great time to get a little nostalgic for, your youth during simpler times in a simpler world. Yeah. So let's take this back to, October 2019, Democratic primary era. Wasn't that a fun, innocent time?
When you were young and full of beans.
When we were young and full of beans. Such an innocent time when the biggest problem in the world, according to Elizabeth Warren, was mean tweets. So this is an excerpt from the new book by Ryan Grimm called The Squad, which I'm sure you guys all have on your Christmas list, so it should be arriving any day now. Talk about a great stocking stuffer for the holiday season, Ryan Grimm's book about the Squad. But according to this book, Elizabeth Warren tried to convince AOC not to endorse Bernie Sanders in 2020 by compiling top Sanders backers' mean tweets, according to the book. Senator Elizabeth Warren unsuccessfully tried to convince Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to stay on the sidelines during the 2020 presidential election by highlighting just how outspoken some of Senator Bernie Sanders' most notable surrogates were, because that was never featured in the media. The media never really complained about Bernie bros being mean online. So I guess Warren felt the need to really, send her a message. Hey, want to make sure you're aware. Warren was able to read Ocasio-Cortez's hesitation, and she made the case to her that endorsing Sanders would be a mistake because of the divisive surrogates like Nina Turner around him, journalist Ryan Grimm wrote in his new book, The Squad, AOC, and the Hope of a Political Revolution. That's the name of the book. According to the new book, Warren herself directed that a long list of mean tweets to be compiled into a dossier that her staff then sent to Ocasio-Cortez. She actually had her staff go through and pick out mean tweets and put them in a huge list. Make sure you remember the one where Pat the Birder tells Peter Dow to suck his nuts. That's a good one. Don't leave that one out. Make sure she sees that. She had her staff send AOC a long dossier of mean tweets from aides and surrogates like Turner, David Sirota, Brianna Joy Gray, and Sean King, Grimm wrote. Ocasio-Cortez herself was privately concerned about Bernie Bro's reputation that swirled around some of Sanders' online supporters. During the time in question, Sanders and Warren were fighting to become the lead progressive alternative to then former Vice President Joe Biden. Warren, just weeks before the Iowa Democratic caucuses, would later accuse Sanders of privately telling her that a woman could not win the presidency. We all remember that. Sanders has vehemently denied he said such a thing. The tweets did not deter AOC, who volunteered for Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign before her earth-shattering rise to power. What do you mean, her earth-shattering rise to power? Oh, you mean 2016 campaign. Got it. I was about to say, what power has she risen to between when she's gotten elected and now? She's lost power since then.
Yeah, they went from the what's the name of the place she bartended?
Oh, it was in Flatiron, right? It was right near Union Square.
Yeah, it's like right by that famous bakery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I forget what it's called, but it was right near Union Square, not far. Her 2020.
It's not Tortilla Flats, but I always want to say Tortilla Flats.
No, Tortilla Flats is in the West Village.
It's something very similar to that.
Yeah, Tortilla Flats, that's in the West Village. That's on Washington Street, I think. Her 2020 endorsement of Sanders provided a major boost for the Vermont lawmaker's campaign, who was in a hospital bed at the time. Don't forget he had a heart attack. Biden, who posted poor showings in earlier states, would later use the South Carolina primary, blah, 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 to springboard back in the race and ultimately clinch the nomination. Yeah, we remember that. It's unclear what tweets were highlighted in this dossier. The 4 Sanders supporters in question were known for hard-nosed statements. Turner, a former Ohio State senator, later had some of her rhetoric turns against her. That's the half a bowl of shit comment in the congressional race that highlighted how she said voting for Biden would be like eating half a bowl of shit. Neither AOC nor Elizabeth Warren responded to insiders' request for comment. Well, that's a nice, juicy gossip story. I hope Ryan Grimm is really satisfied that he got this book out, the access that he needed to write this book. I'm sure that's totally worth it in his mind for justifying their breaking up of a railroad strike. Remember when they broke up the railroad strike? He was out there defending them about how they did the best they could, and they were responding to the wishes of the rank and file, and we're like, why the hell is he going out of his way to defend the squad here? Well, I guess maybe this is why, because he was writing a book and he needed the access. Go ahead. But commenting on the substance of the article there, what a simpler time. What a more innocent and what a more ridiculous time. Like, don't you just look back on that and think, how embarrassing was it to ever have to worry about such a thing as mean tweets? Because if you were invested in the Bernie 2020 campaign, as I certainly was, it was like really something that was on our mind. Like, we really thought about that. We really had to think, let's not present ourselves as being too rude, right? Or too mean, because we can really get in trouble for that. And, ooh, what if they come for us? And that's why, as much as when he lost, I said, well, that's pretty much it for the, United States centuries-long project. Like, I guess the country's over, but at least that liberates me to be the kind of asshole that I always wanted to be. And since then, I haven't felt any obligation to pay any mind to any of that nonsense. But when you look back on it and you think of how high the stakes are right now, not only have our domestic woes become worse, but foreign policy has just completely blown up in apocalyptic ways. How ridiculous was it for the so-called left to be arguing over mean tweets? It just goes to what you said about the left attracting soft people who really overreact to having their feelings hurt. And that's what made up so much of that movement and those surrounding it.
Well, I am going to, because of that Blockbuster interview that Jimmy recently did with Catherine Liu, I've been reading this book. I'm going to don my glasses for this. So she talks about Elizabeth Warren by way of talking about the PMCs that she represents. So she's talking about an article that was published about the PMCs. Warren failed to place second or sometimes even third or fourth in all the states that voted. Winant, that's the article she's referencing, urged Sanders supporters to bend the knee and reconcile themselves to Warren's brand of progressive professionalism. He did not foresee that it was Sanders who would win primary after primary, while voters resoundingly rejected Warren's brand of limited progressivism, and that's really the key there. The reasons for this rejection are manifold, but centrists and liberals want to ignore popular distrust of incremental solutionism by dismissing the collective desire for radical economic reorganization. And that's it. You might have noticed that a lot of people that you know who absolutely fucking despised Sanders loved Elizabeth Warren. And
right. Exactly.
And very outwardly so. They really wanted you to know how much they loved Elizabeth Warren, because deep down, they always knew you were out-lefting them with Sanders. So they wanted to show they were really leftists. It's just that they wanted a serious leftist who's not some cranky old Jew from New York. But really what it was she conformed to the PMC vision of incremental change. She wasn't scary. She wasn't radical. She was a Harvard professor. She wasn't suggesting any major reorganization of the economy. She wasn't saying anything mean about the party establishment. She wasn't going out of her way to criticize anyone that they've been told by MSNBC is a good person. She didn't do any of that. She didn't even really go after Biden. All of these things, and her book, which, partway into it, I would really recommend, gets into. The professional managerial class used to align with the working class. And over time, starting really in the late 60s, they shifted their allegiance to the same capitalists that they used to fight. The professional managerial class were the ones who wanted to regulate the businesses. They were the ones advocating for antitrust. That's what those experts used to do. That's who FDR surrounded himself with. Those were the embryonic PMCs. Professional managerial class did not then mean what it means to us today. Organizations like the FDA, the American Medical Association, they were there to regularize and regulate society's institutions in a way that benefited the people. But as the PMCs, and this comes up a lot when I'm on Jimmy's, because we're both horrified by what's become of the arts community. But it really all goes together, because at the end of the day, most artists were always PMCs. When the PMCs had better values, so did the artists. As the PMCs have shifted and become allies of the capitalist class, whose way of expressing their politics is largely through consumer choice, the artists have followed suit. And as the PMCs have become stomach churning, so has the arts community, because that's always been the soil that most of them spring from to begin with. It just wasn't as stomach churning when the PMCs were more tolerable. So that's why all those people, who hate, it wasn't just because Warren was a woman. It was also because of the kind of politics that she represented. And that's relatable for them. And this is a good example. And so we haven't done a Warren story in a very long time, but it is worth noting. Has anybody so thoroughly abased themselves to so little purpose in the history of politics as Elizabeth Warren? She got nothing.
Yeah, usually when you sell out, you get something for it. That's why it's called selling out.
No, she got absolutely nothing, because with these people, once you cross them, that's it. They don't forget. They'll never let you in the club. And this is the irony. You know how she would have been better off if she flipped to the Republicans and then said that she wants a cabinet position than as a Democrat. If you're still one of, because they love that story of the Republican who comes over to them. Steve Schmidt would have a better job getting a better chance getting a job in a Democratic administration than Elizabeth Warren at this point.
Oh yeah, no question about it. No question about it. Yeah, and those are very good points. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right about when the class of people that the arts now makes up, she was a more attractive, really, I mean, I hate to refer to it this way, but she became a sort of consumer product for them, right? And she just fit their sensibilities more than Bernie ever could, because he was too grubby, right? Too working class, right? Exactly. Franklin Warsham, thank you for the $1.99. Not getting my wife anything for Christmas, so thanks for making it rain on me. $1.99, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Half Dahlia, thank you for the $2. I'm the same age as Keaton. Happy birthday. Thank you, Half Dahlia. Thank you, Cool Blue, for the $1.99. Appreciate that. Pat Donahue hit us up before the show with €10. Thank you, my friend. Whatever happened to the charges against Bernie's wife? Did they disappear with Bernie's opposition to the establishment? That would at least explain a few things. Yeah, that's Russ's theory, and he floated that on the Jimmy Show. And not only did Jimmy seem to agree with that, but I believe Tucker Carlson seemed to agree with that, because Jimmy mentioned that in the interview, which I still haven't watched that full thing, but I did catch that part. So yeah, that's plausible to me.
Mm-hmm. Because they stopped talking about it as soon as he bent the knee. It never
and he
came
really
up
hasn't
again.
made any noise since. I mean, the last thing he did was write a letter after 20,000 Palestinians were murdered. That's when they got a letter out of him. But thank you, Abiding.
I understand it was a very strongly worded letter, though.
That's what I hear. People are saying.
Fair. People are saying.
Jay Tolbert, thanks for the $4.99. Happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you guys all for the birthday wishes. Orwellian, appreciate that. Orwellian is a member. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And Orwellian also gave us a big super chat down here. Why don't we get out the singing bowl for Orwellian or the cowbell, whichever you want. Thank you for the $100. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that very much. Keep doing what you're doing. We love you and Russ. Well, we love you too. God bless you. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
Great name.
And a great name. Exactly. DC, thanks for the $2. I'm 37. I'm not old, says Dennis the Anarcho Peasants. Yes. Barbara Fortune, thank you for the $1.99. Thanks, Dave, for the $20. It's very kind of you guys. Thank you guys very much for your donations. Infrared, happy birthday, you young whippersnapper. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We will get to all super chats as we go. But we got plenty more show to do on this Friday matinee.
Do you guys, so they don't get the cowbell because the mic automatically mutes it because it's too loud? Do I have to Do I have to shut because people are like the cowbell's silent? Do I have to like change my settings before I do the cowbell?
I don't know, but why don't we test that off air? It's that sounds like something to test beforehand. I never thought of that. But yeah, no, the mic it'll balance it. It'll lower itself if you're on auto volume if you get a real loud sound in front of it.
I could have used a little more cowbell.
Yeah, right, exactly. Could have used a little more cowbell. All righty. Let's go to segment number 2. The University of Pennsylvania last week ran their president, Liz McGill, out of town in response to the congressional hearings that went awry. And there's been a lot of pressure on Harvard to do the same with their president, Claudine Gay. But Harvard actually stood up for something. Harvard's board unites behind its president, but its campus remains splintered. Harvard's governing body said it stood firmly behind Claudine Gay as the university's president, a stance, both praised and condemned by students, faculty, and alumni. The difficult and divisive questions over how universities should respond when student demonstrations cross a line into threatening, disruptive, and harmful behavior came to a head at Harvard over the last week as Dr. Gay faced calls to resign after her widely criticized appearance before a congressional committee looking into anti-Semitism on campus. When asked a question about whether threatening Jewish people with genocide would violate the school's code of conduct, she equivocated. Okay, this is, again, that's New York Times sleazy writing. When asked a question about whether threatening Jewish people with genocide would violate the school's code of conduct, the question was, does political advocacy constitute threats and harassment? Obviously, a direct threat to eliminate somebody or a group of people made to a person for the purposes of threatening them or intimidating them, yes, that does constitute harassment. That's their whole point. Their whole point is we are drawing a line differentiating political speech, however vile that speech may be, from direct threats. That's the whole point. So that's the New York Times doing what they do.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like some of what I witnessed when I went and covered the October 8th protest, for example, and you can go back and see that because I included it in the footage, the gentleman saying to a Palestinian, oh, yeah, the bombs are going to rain down on you. Well,
exactly.
Well, that might qualify as harassment, I would say.
Because it's in the second person. It's directed at a person to a specific person with a threat of violence. So that would be harassment. It's going to be huge,
he said. It's going to be huge.
Right. Exactly. That would be harassment. But political speech, even political speech that you don't like, according to the head of Harvard and the head of UPenn, is not in itself harassment by definition. At least they did say that. Obviously, McGill flipped and apologized, and they shit-canned her anyway. They got rid of her anyway. They didn't fire her entirely, but she's not the president of the university anymore. On Tuesday, Harvard's governing body said it stood firmly behind Dr. Gay, offering her a unanimous show of support after several days of silence and intense public pressure. Under fire from some of the university's major financial backers, prominent Jewish alumni, and lawmakers, the board deliberated late into the night on Monday before issuing a statement of support. Quote, as members of the Harvard Corporation, we today reaffirm our support for President Gay's continued leadership of Harvard University, said the statement signed by the board members, aside from Dr. Gay. Our extensive deliberations affirm our confidence that President Gay is the right leader to help our community heal and to address the very serious societal issues we are facing. The statement backing Dr. Gay also served to underscore that the university would have zero tolerance for student protests that disrupt class. Raucous demonstrations, including those targeting conservative speakers over the last few years, have become a growing focus of donors, alumni, and politicians who say that elite colleges have become too inhospitable of ideological diversity.
And their answer is to make it less hospitable for ideological diversity.
Well, there's that, obviously. But also, I don't remember hearing much backlash about any of the things that were going on the campuses from the donors. Were the donors upset about student protests against any other issue? I don't remember that.
I never heard a donor making noise about it. You've had some
It's got
people in
media attention.
academia have spoken out about it. Some media, mostly from what's considered right-wing media as a rule. But yeah, no, a donor saying I'm going to stop donating if you don't become more tolerant of speech. This is an area I take interest in, and I've never heard such a thing.
Yeah, me neither. We champion open discourse and academic freedom, the Harvard Corporation said in its statement, and we are united in our strong belief that calls for violence against our students and disruption of the classroom experience will not be tolerated. Lawrence H. Tribe, for those who follow Lawrence Tribe on X, I mean, he is one of the dumbest. I mean, I always say, so every once in a while, I quote tweet Lawrence Tribe and say, this is proof you don't have to be smart to work at Harvard. I mean, Lawrence Tribe is a moron, an absolute idiot.
Her and Brianna.
Yeah, yeah, an absolute idiot. A Harvard law professor emeritus had criticized Dr. Gay's performance at the congressional hearing as hesitant, formulaic, and bizarrely evasive, yet he joined hundreds of other members of faculty in signing a petition calling for Dr. Gay to keep her job, saying it was dangerous for universities to be bullied into making decisions about whom to hire and fire. That's honestly more nuanced than I thought Lawrence Tribe was actually capable of. So I got to give Lawrence Tribe a little bit of a pat on the back there.
Stop clock, right time.
Exactly. I do think that building bridges is preferable to exploding them, Mr. Tribe said on Tuesday after the board announced its decision to keep Dr. Gay as president. I hope very much she can move the university forward and wish for her success, said Rabbi David Wolpe, who resigned from Harvard's Advisory Committee on Anti-Semitism after Dr. Gay's congressional testimony, which he called inadequate. Final slide here. Dr. Gay's critics expressed their dissatisfaction with the board's decision. This is a moral failure of Harvard's leadership and higher education leadership at the highest levels, said Representative Elise Stefanik, the New York Republican who led the most aggressive questioning of Dr. Gay during the hearing on Capitol Hill last week. Ido Berger, a professor of astronomy, said the board's statement failed to make a case for why Dr. Gay should stay. It may have been difficult to reach a decision due to external pressures, he said, but to me, that's the sign of leadership. What the fuck do you know about leadership? You're a professor of astronomy. If I need to know about a quasar or a black hole or something, I'll ask you. Why should we care what your opinion on this is? Dr. Berger added that he was unsure reconciliation was possible. I don't know that this closes the case, he said. The various pressures won't go away. No, they certainly won't go away, but this was a big L for the people like Bill Ackman who thought that they could run her out of town. And so I've never had a kind word to say about Harvard in my life. So I guess, new day, new time. It's a new year for me. My 37th trip around the sun. I'll have to begin by giving it up for Harvard a little bit. I'm glad they stood their ground on this.
That's how you'll always
good
remember
news.
This birthday.
Yes, the year I learned to love Harvard. Yes.
Yeah, well, this is yet another example of how nothing has created weird bedfellows and unexpected enemies like this particular story. Harvard, which, hey, I've been critical of it. You've been critical of it. We've definitely criticized a lot of campus censorship on this show. Like, that's a real thing. Sure. I would never have expected a unanimous decision from Harvard's advisory board to keep this president in the face of this kind of pressure from donors. That is the first hopeful thing we've seen come out of any of these elite institutions in a very long time, although to add a more Machiavellian note to it. I've done so many shows this week. I don't remember what show we were talking about this on, if it was RBN or on Jimmy's show. I don't know at this point. But on some level, you could also see this as a pissing contest between society's power centers. You could read this as academia saying, well, once we give in to this, if we give in to politicians and donors now, we're never going to stop. So we had better draw the line here. Also, remember, a big part of the problem the people who have taken up the Israeli cause are having is they desperately want to place themselves in the category of the groups for which these academic institutions have been censoring people they perceive as marginalized or oppressed, whether people of color, whether people of various sexualities or gender identities. The Jews are saying we belong there. And most people who are immersed in that school of thought are saying, no, the Palestinians fall in that category, and you actually fall in the oppressor category, so we cannot stand with you. That is the core of what's being argued here. And even though when I've covered this, I've tended to focus on the students being the students and professors like D'Angelo and so on, or Ibram Kendi, I would consider grifting crackpots. At the same time, you have to remember at this point, the generation of academics in charge are going to be mostly people who fervently believe in a lot of those ideas, not in a dishonest way, in an honest way. And I think for a lot of them, they're just not willing to compromise that principle. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that a lot of this is actually coming from the right place.
Yeah, and I see a couple of people in the chat referencing the plagiarism accusations against Gay. I mean, I looked into those a little bit. They seem like total bullshit. I mean, come on. You're going to gin up a plagiarism charge right now? Why don't you just be honest about why you want her gone rather than try and dig up some bullshit thing from years back as to, oh, well, this is why she shouldn't have never had the job in the first place. It's pretty transparent what they're trying to do and why. And I think those comments obviously make sense. And, it is on top of the idea that there's this conflict between who is perceived as a victimized group here, right? Because a lot of people now are saying, well, Jews deserve that status. And what the students are saying is that, well, not only do the Palestinians deserve that status, but our complaint is not with Jews, but with Zionists. And that's another line that these donors want to really make very, very gray, where it isn't gray at all. Juliana Margulies lied in that podcast and said, well, at Columbia University, they had a Free Palestine meeting with the saying no Jews allowed. They weren't allowing Jews there. No, they did not say no Jews allowed. They said no Zionists allowed. No people of a political persuasion that stands in direct defiance of what we believe are going to come to the Free Palestine meeting. Why would a Zionist go to a Free Palestine meeting? Jews might go to a Free Palestine meeting. I would go to a Free Palestine meeting. So there's two lines that they want to make very, very fuzzy there. One is, okay, who is the victim and who is the perpetrator? And then who are the perpetrators? The donors want to say they're saying Jews are perpetrators, where a lot of people are rightly saying, no, it's the Zionists who are the perpetrators. It's the Israeli state who are the perpetrators and those who enforce it.
Well, and this lying is a pattern. I was reading an article the other day talking about the explosion of anti-Semitism on campus, and they uncritically quoted someone saying they witnessed at the protest. Basically, the person reframed from the river to the sea and said they screamed, no Jews from sea to sea. Yeah. Palestine will all be Arab. Yeah, that's very catchy. I'm sure that's what they were chanting.
Yeah.
There will be no Jews from sea to sea. It will all be Arab. I'm sure that's exactly what you heard them saying. That's not what he heard them saying. And the paper, I can't remember which one it was, but it was a mainstream outlet, just uncritically quoted this. Yeah, like that fucking happened. Like that happened. Come on.
Yeah, just absurd. Absurd. Yasim Miller, thanks for the $10. Happy birthday, Keaton. Thank you. Our family trip to Iceland tomorrow. Very excited. Oh, wow. That'll be beautiful. Yeah.
Cool.
You guys have a great time this holiday season. I may watch your next live show in the hotel. Well, beautiful. Thank you. Enjoy. Ooh. Iceland. Never been, but I've seen pictures. Looks really good. Looks really nice. So enjoy that trip. Gary Gerskowitz, thanks for the $10. Happy birthday, Keaton. Appreciate that, my friend. Sid Artivicious, I like that. 37 is just being in your extremely late 20s. I like that name, Sid Artivicious. That's good.
In this infantilized culture, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yep. I bet.
Keaton is unusually grown up for this country. Where we're going to do something about the trend of people going on Instagram to brag about how they get to go to Costco because they don't have kids.
Costco? No, I have to go to. No, you go to Costco because you have kids.
No,
you
read the article.
No,
I sent
know.
You.
I saw the video.
They'll post these Instagrams like, we can go to Costco.
No, the guy was saying we could go to Costco and get all the snacks we want for ourselves and not have to share with the kids. But then he's like, we can go out to eat after work because we don't have kids. Yeah, the dinks, they call them. Dual income,
exactly.
no kids.
So we're going to do a piece about this because Keaton has an unusually traditional and healthy family life for somebody in this space. So I think it would be pretty interesting for us to cover that and get some of your take
I would like
on
to
these
cover
dinks.
that. I almost pitched it actually because I know that's a bit of a culture topic that you might be interested in. I think I was gonna pitch it to you like a week ago because that video's been out there for a while. But something more important probably came up, like the stuff that's been coming up. But we'll do it on Sunday for sure because that'll be good. Cambridge Analytico, thanks for the $1.99. Happy birthday, Keith. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Over on Rumble, happy birthday, Keaton. And remember, Jesus loves you. He really does. Thank you very much. I'm fielding these myself today, so I apologize if I can't get your names copied and pasted because we are without Jake. To me, the seriousness of a threat depends on the plausibility. If someone yells, "I'm going to melt the sun," they obviously aren't a serious threat. An angry college student has no power. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally buy that. I think that's a good point. At the same time, I do think if someone directs a statement to you, there's a difference between third, first, and second person. If I say you should be wiped out or you shouldn't be here, that's harassment because you are targeting a belief or you're targeting a charge statement at an individual for the purpose of making them feel like they're unwanted or that they can't be where they are. That crosses a line. Political speech does not cross a line because it's not directed at a specific individual or group of people, right? It's just a sentiment of how you feel about the world, about issues. If you target that at once, like if you were to, this is when we had Greenwald on the example, like if you harass a Jewish student and say, you need to get the fuck out of here, yeah, obviously. But of course, they would say that too. Claudine Gay, Liz McGill, they would all say that. In fact, they did say that in the testimony. That's what was so bad faith about all the people like the Bill Ackmans who are trying to run them out of town. All right, let's go to some video here. Our friends at RBN showed us this for the first time, and I just laughed at this to the point where I felt we had to feature this on our show. I had to show this to you guys. This is a quick segment, but this is Dave Portnoy on Fox News talking to Stuart Varney. Apparently, Barstool Sports... formerly desirable job for Ivy League alumni. Didn't really know that you needed a degree from Dartmouth to go and review pizza for Barstool Sports or whatever the hell they do. But Portnoy says he's not hiring kids from these colleges anymore because of the stances of their respective presidents. So here's Dave Portnoy on Fox News.
Hire anyone from you will not hire anyone from Harvard, UPenn, or MIT until the school's deans step down. Has anyone from these schools applied to work with you?
Yeah, well, first of all, we already have Harvard grads, so they're grandfathered in. But in the Penn dean, President McGill, she stepped down. A lot of people reached out, but I think it's not only me. I think a lot of leaders have to do it. It was disgusting what those deans and presidents did under oath. Makes no sense to me. I don't know how, if you can't condemn genocide, I don't care whether we're talking Jews, Muslims, any group of people, then you don't deserve to be, in a position of power. You got to get out.
Oh, is that right? Is that right? So if you condemn genocide, whether it's against Jews or Muslims or any group of people, if you can't condemn genocide against anyone, then you should get out. So what about the Israel supporters who work for you? Are you going to send out an email asking who here supports Israel? If so, please hand in your resignation by the end of the week, because Israel's actually committing the genocide right now. So anybody who works for you who supports Israel is actually complicit in an actual genocide that's unfolding in real time. Stuart Varney, who's interviewing you right now, he supports Israel. He supports genocide. So what does it say about you that you went on his TV show and are yucking it up with him? It's interesting that he said, anybody who supports genocide of anyone shouldn't be working here. Well, then maybe you ought to look into who supports Israel.
Yeah. Well, that's his way of trying to evade accusations of racism or one-sidedness. But obviously, it is one-sided. Or yes, exactly. We've had people in the Israeli cabinet suggest dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza. We've had them call them animals, high-ranking people. We've had leaked white papers openly stating that the long-term plan is to push them into the desert in Egypt, into refugee camps. I mean, there's a lot more evidence that Israel is waging a genocidal, illegal war against the Palestinians. So are you going to stop hiring Zionists? I'm sure he's got plenty of Zionists working there, given his disposition.
Sounds like it to me.
What about free speech? Does that come into this?
Yeah, listen, is Hitler allowed to say, I want to kill the Jews, I want to kill the Jews, I want to kill the Jews, right up till he kills the Jews? I would say no. That's what they're saying you can do in this country. There's a difference between free speech.
Right, that's all that caused the Third Reich. It was just because Hitler said stuff.
He kept saying it over and over again until he finally did it.
And then it happened. Yeah, there was no other factors at play that caused that.
It's not like he needed to accrue political power first, right? It's not like he needed a military in back of him. No, students who are holding free Palestine rallies, they need to be just as censored and just as policed as Hitler.
Free speech and hate.
Well, you know what? If you really want to draw a parallel, the Weimar Republic, which is something else Catherine Liu gets into, was overrun by virtue signaling PMCs who had a disdain for labor. Why don't you look at that parallel?
Yeah, you can check that out.
Free speech and hate speech, and when you're endangering people and causing harm, I think you got to put a stop to it. It's called common sense.
Okay, we always like to run through a whole gamut of subjects.
It's called common sense. Okay. All right. So once again, I mean, look, if that's how you feel, then just, be fair, be even-handed about it. Find out who supports Israel and say, look, you can say this and say this and say this, but when Israel actually does it, which they have done it and are continuing to do it, at that point, we have to shut you down. That's what he said. Well, Hitler can say, I want to kill the Jews over and over and over again. And then when he does it, do we look back and say we should have stopped him? Well, now you actually have a genocide going on right now. So if you're going to have this policy of total discrimination, by the way, nobody from any of these schools is welcome to work at my organization. They're not even going to ask them what they think or how they feel about it. Oh, no, you came from Harvard, MIT, or UPenn. You can't come.
Yeah, you think you don't have virulent Zionists in the Ivy League?
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, you could pretty easily, I'm sure, recruit rabid Zionists from that group.
Exactly. It doesn't even make sense on its own sort of insane terms that now you're having a company-wide blacklist of people from these institutions because their president won't step down because they are making a distinction between speech and harassment, which he's obviously not capable of making there. And obviously he's not going to get called out for anything on Fox News. He's to a totally, sympathetic audience there. But it was Dave Portnoy who tried to get canceled. Remember, he went viral because he recorded a phone call from a reporter who tried to smear him, saying he was a problematic person. And so they tried to get advertisers to pull out of the events that he was putting on. And I said, good for him. You shouldn't destroy a guy with innuendo and sort of, vague accusations of problematic language and behavior. But now here he is trying to cancel students for the crime of just going to the college whose presidents he doesn't like. This is just one more example. It's just amazing. The list of hypocrites who have exposed themselves for being such free speech hypocrites when it comes to this issue is just a mile long. You can't keep up with it. You can add him to the list. I'm sorry.
But what's really disgusting for me about a lot of this, and this comes up a lot around Elon, because Elon really wades into these culture wars as a matter of course. It's disgusting how we've been reduced to championing different billionaires. It's disgusting how they act as the avatars for the great debates of the age. Who gives a fuck what these people think? And it really, really disgusts me when people who consider themselves on the left get into hero worshiping these billionaires because they happen to like the position they take on a particular topic. You're a peasant. You have the mind of a peasant if you think that way. Oh, did you see what Lord Musk said? Right. Lord Musk stood up to Lord Bezos. Yay, Musk. That's what you are when you start ass licking on scumbags like Elon Musk. Like, yeah, is he better than a lot of his peers in the billionaire space? Sure. His wealth should not exist. There should not be billionaires. Nobody who considers themselves on the left has any business cheerleading Elon Musk. You want to say better Twitter be in his hands than Jack Dorsey's or someone like Zuckerberg? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But there's this tendency to hero worship. And when you do that, you're a peasant. You're the peasant in feudalism who loves the local lord.
Yep. Indeed. Very well said. Folks, it is my birthday. One way to make my birthday special will be to go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and sign up. You can make us full-time workers by doing that because we are very, very close to hitting 500 paid members on Patreon, Substack, and Locals. And so when you guys get us there, we will be adding a fourth stream per week. And so if you can head over to patreon.com/DoDissidents, you will really help the show out. That is the best way to support the show. Our patrons, our Substackers, our Locals members, you guys are the backbone of the show. You get a shout out on the show credits. You also get call-in access to our weekly Q&As after all the Sunday evening shows. And you get 2 bonus live streams per month available exclusively for paid subscribers at Patreon, Substack, that's DoDissidents.substack.com, and Locals, DoDissidents.locals.com. If you are on Rumble now, you can hit the join button right underneath the screen, and that takes you right to the Locals page where you can sign up. Perks are the same no matter where you sign up, so that is your choice. Patreon, Substack, and Locals. We had a great patron-exclusive show yesterday at 10 a.m. It was about a 2.5-hour show. That was a great time. Those are uncensored. They're on Rumble, so they're a lot of fun. We can kind of loosen up and say whatever the hell we want. It's great. I like doing those shows a great deal. And so if you want access to those shows, you can get them for as little as $5 a month. And so please sign up if you can. And thank you guys very much, obviously,
that's like the club
for your
gig.
support.
That's like the club gig. It's intimate. We can really respond to the chat because it's not like 100
Yeah, it's not
minutes.
moving 100 miles an hour. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are a lot of fun, and people seem to really have a good time yesterday. We had a lot of callers yesterday, which was great. We got to meet a lot of you for the first time. We had about 8 or 9 callers yesterday. That was a lot, but it's great. We got to, and a lot of first-time callers too. So you can call in, you can hang out. It's kind of informal. We do about an hour and a half worth of material, and then take calls for about an hour. So it was a great time had by all. Thank you guys all for showing up yesterday who came to the patron stream. And if you can sign up, patreon.com/DoDissidents, best way to censor-proof this operation, best way to safeguard this operation, and best way to catapult this project into a full-time operation for Mr. Dobular and myself for 2024. Once we get to 500 paid members, we can afford to add that 4th weekly stream. And so thank you guys all very much for your support. We will read some more super chats and get on with the show. Cambridge Analytico, read this one already, but thank you again. Appreciate that. Brits Man, Vanguard Dunk compilation when you pass their subs. I think we did like 3 big segments on them. Maybe we should release the Vanguard like trilogy, as a one piece. Maybe we'll print that out on DVD and mail it to our patrons.
Special edition DVD.
Special DVD of the Vanguard trilogy.
Comes with like a toy van.
Exactly. I mean, look, I've said this a while ago. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. I said this a while ago, as in, like, I don't know, 6 months or maybe even 8 months ago, 10 months ago, whatever, because people have said, hey, what are you going to do when your channel gets bigger than theirs? Our channel's been bigger than theirs for a long time. We get way more viewers than them. I mean, that's all that really matters. I mean, the subs are nice. It's great. But what matters is who watches. And so,
I mean, we're like our live view counts are Jesus.
I mean, we're going
like
at an
seven,
unusual
8
time
times
slot
what
right
they're
now.
getting. Yeah.
We're at a one-off unusual time slot on a Friday during the holidays, and we have a combined, 1,400 people between YouTube and Rumble? So, yeah, that's pretty damn good. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, I feel too bad for them to slam them.
Yeah, I
like
wouldn't
that.
do it.
That's
Yeah,
why I don't even bring up like let's do something on the Vanguard. I actually feel bad for those guys, man. I sent Keaton I because sometimes my algorithm will still feed me their video, and I got fed like they were doing a live Q&A. There were 82 people watching.
Yeah, no, you have to punch up. Punch up. Don't punch down. That's the rule.
We can't do that, man.
Yeah.
It's enough. Yeah. Apparently, the audience for kind of like Beavis and Butthead YouTube gossip routine is limited. And to take it,
Well, a genocide will do that, when things get serious. You got to get serious.
I was just gonna say, like, taking it, beyond them and just broadly, like, what killed their channel. Yeah, man. It's all well and good when things aren't that serious and you want to do a video about Cenk said this shit about this person and blah, 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 blah. You're running that kind of show in the middle of these kinds of horrors. It's so dissonant. Who's going to really watch that?
Right. Exactly. Black Freud, thanks for the $5. AOC word offers no value added to her constituents. Yes, indeed. Witchy Best Friend, thank you for the $5. Appreciate that. And thank you for the birthday wishes. And Black Freud, happy birthday, Keat. Using your birthday as a grift? Of course I am. Why wouldn't you? That's the only thing. I mean, that's what birthdays are there for, right? I mean, if not, then when? Be well. Thank you,
birthdays, bar mitzvahs, and communions, my friend.
Baptism. I use my kids' baptism as a grift.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
He doesn't believe in any of that shit.
Yeah.
He needs a down payment for a house.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta get that coming in. Hole in your soul. 38th trip, buddy. Yeah, I caught that. Thank you. Yep, that's 37 years old. Mean it's starting my 38th trip around the sun since you started at 0. That's right. Eat Hot Chip and Lie. Thanks for the $10. Excuse me. The funniest thing for me is that there has to be people out there that are vehemently pro-Israel, but also anti-squatter rights. Yeah, exactly. Happy birthday, Keaton. Go get him, Tiger. Thank you, and good point. Appreciate that. Ackman's Power Trip says Ashkiro Moxie will backfire on Zionists later. Yeah, no, I mean, we've said before, this is going to hurt Israel in the long run because they are acting in ways that people will not be able to forget or not be able to gloss over. You're not going to be able to anymore say, well, it's complicated, That's how a lot of people have handled that. That's how a lot of people have approached this issue. Now, what are you going to do? It's a religious conflict. You got these people fighting over land, and the Bible says this, and the Quran says this. I mean, that's just how they think of it. I'm not saying there's any accuracy to that in terms of how they process it, but they throw their hands up. They say it's complicated. What are you going to do? And now you're seeing, A, it's not really complicated, and B, just how monstrous can one country act towards a population before people see it for what it is.
Well, we're showing when you've got CNN doing the kind of coverage we're going to be showing a little later in the show, it's over. It's over. And we're also covering some of the boycotts. After this, whatever the outcome, the amount of boycotts, divestment, lack of tourism, who's going to go there after this?
Right.
Oh, that was a big industry for them. Who is going to visit Israel? Other than your most rabid Zionists of both Christian and Jewish variety.
Exactly. No, that's a good question. Laugh, thanks for the £5. Happy Christmas, Keaton, Russell, and especially Tusker. You done good this year. Happy birthday to the youngin. Thank you, Laugh. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
The Brocialist, thanks for the $9.99. Happy birthday, Keaton. I'll be hitting 37 in a few months. Awesome. Congrats on all success this year. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Sparky, thanks for the birthday wishes, my friend. Appreciate that. And Ava sang me a little song. Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Ava. That's very kind of you guys. A long story short, biggest Shabbos guy, RFK, DeSantis, or Ted Cruz?
Shabbos Goy.
Shabbos Goy. That's right, Shabbos Goy. Biggest Shabbos Goy. RFK, DeSantis, or Ted Cruz? I haven't heard much from DeSantis or Ted Cruz.
Speaking
most high profile.
Speaking of Shabbos Goys, I guess we'll hold it for next Friday. We tend to do the lighter segments on Friday. I have delved into this Elvis is Jewish thing. So this is a real rumor. Now, what's not rumor, what is incontrovertible, and I never knew this as much as I know about Elvis. He when he was growing up, they lived at one point below an Orthodox Jewish family, and he was their Shabbos Goy.
Wow. I
never knew that.
Yeah, I blew it. I was going to hit this. But the moment passed. That's why there was that awkward pause there. I was like, oh, where is it? Because you added a bunch of stuff between now and then. Yep. All right.
Yeah, Elvis was a Shabbos Goy. Who knew? I never heard that.
All right, Russell, you're up. We got Russell quarterback in a few segments here. Starbucks, go ahead.
All right. So Starbucks has lost $11 billion in value amid boycotts. We'll get into it a little later, but I think there's a reason we're seeing so many consumer boycotts now. So Starbucks Corporation's recent weeks have been fraught with turmoil as a combination of boycotts, staff strikes, and a lukewarm holiday promotion led to a $10.98 billion decline in market value. While the iconic coffee chain struggles are multifaceted, including a less cheerful Red Cup Day and global political tensions spilling into its cafes, the undercurrent of discontent signals a challenging brew for the company's future. I like what you did there.
Yeah.
An industry analyst has said. The stock market has weighed heavily on Starbucks as it grapples with complex societal issues, or maybe people just don't want their shit overpriced coffee anymore. That's not in the article, prompting investors to retreat and driving its shares into their longest losing streak since its 1992 initial public offering. Within the span of 19 calendar days since its November 16th Red Cup Day promotion, shares of Starbucks have plummeted 8.96%, which equates to a nearly $11 billion loss amidst analyst reports of slowing sales and a subdued response to the holiday season's offerings. So I took a look at this before the segment. All right, so about a month ago, it was around 107. It peaked around 107, and that, like right here, and then it just fell off a cliff. The stock market, so those of you who follow it might have heard that Powell just announced they're going to stop raising interest rates and are going to do 3 cuts next year. So it bottomed at about 95. What's that, Kay?
No, I was just going to say, they're going to cut interest rates because I guess the program of censorship, war, and starvation is not the best, re-election campaign slogan in the world. I guess they figure they're going to have to do something about the inflation and the economy. Yeah,
and the evaporating 401ks.
Yeah, right.
So it bottomed at around 95 and then did a little bump back after Powell made that announcement, but not much. It's sitting around 97. So it really, even with this enormous bounce back the market did this week, Starbucks did not recover much. So the boycotts at the Seattle, Washington-based chain have deep roots, touching on sensitive geopolitical issues after the company found itself in hot water following a tweet from Starbucks Workers United, the union representing many of its baristas expressing solidarity with Palestinians. The swift corporate response sparked a series of boycotts, with calls to action resonating across social media platforms. The company's legal actions against the union have intensified the debate, leaving Starbucks to navigate its business operations amid political expression. The strikes, led by unionized workers, highlighted an urge for improved staffing, scheduling, and bargaining over contract negotiations. The workers demand better working conditions, especially on high traffic days that they say test the limits of staff capacity and morale. The company denied any wrongdoing in the scenarios, but faces the challenge of maintaining its brand reputation amid divisive global issues. In a recent call with analysts, Starbucks CEO Laxman Narasimhan.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
Exactly how you say it. Said he remains optimistic about the. That's like Evil Dead. I'm gonna bring on the Deadites. Said he remains optimistic about the company's diversified channels and its ability to engage customers despite macroeconomic challenges and changing customer behaviors. So you're seeing of late a lot of very successful boycotts, much more than we've seen in recent years, where consumers really get together and lash out at a corporation for its political or cultural stances, as we saw with usually from the right this year or last year with Bud Light and Target. But now you're also seeing it coming from the left. And I think this is, again, not to break the nihilistic tone of the show, but I think it's a very hopeful sign. Not only were we out ahead on boycotting Starbucks, those of you who have been around long enough will
way out
remember
ahead. We were the first ones.
We were the first ones. We had an ongoing Starbucks challenge where folks recommended different coffees, and I wound up with San Francisco Bay as the one I liked best.
Yeah, backstory on that. Russell used to drink Starbucks French roast at home. He used to have that was his everyday go-to coffee. And then once Starbucks started union busting, that's when we decided, hey, we should no longer support Starbucks. So then we opened it up to the audience to submit, replacement coffee suggestions for Russell, and then we gave the winner free Substack membership for life. That's what we did. But that was before anybody was talking about boycotting Starbucks.
Yeah, that's what just for the way they treated labor. Forget about the Palestine issue now.
That was our forced to vote moment. Remember how Jimmy had forced to vote? That was our thing. Boycott Starbucks.
Hey, I have hated Starbucks ever since I saw the tactics they used in New York. New York, although it's kind of coming back now, but New York was full of all these funky independent coffee shops. And then I remember when Starbucks first arrived in New York, what they would do would be to go to these coffee shops and offer to buy them out. And if they refused to buy them out, it was like the mafia. They would literally open across the street and drive them out of business and then take over their space.
Yep.
So really, they forced Starbucks on New York. And now you're seeing kind of a comeback of those independent stores. But a lot of them were driven out of business by Starbucks. So I always hated Starbucks. So I think you're seeing these kinds of consumer boycotts because people don't really have power at the ballot box.
Exactly.
The only way that they can assert power is through consumer choice. And I would argue that is a big part of why the establishment is so hell-bent on creating a censorship regime. Because how do people coordinate these boycotts? They coordinate them by communicating online. They don't want you to be able to have that communication. If you remember, because it was coming from, they don't quite know what to do with this coming from the left. But with the Target and the Bud Light, you did see a lot of noises about how we need to find a way to strike back against this. What do you mean?
You can't force people to shop somewhere.
That's democracy.
Yeah.
That's democracy.
Yeah.
We need that. Like, what could be more democratic than people deciding through their consumer choice they're going to express their politics? What do you mean you want to do something?
Yeah, I mean, you could think it's stupid. I thought the Target one was kind of silly, but what are you going to do? Force people to shop somewhere they don't want to shop at?
That's it. But look, it was a test model.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing it from the left, just like we're seeing, and I think it goes together with more union organizing. Obviously, this boycott came out of the way Starbucks responded to its union's stance on Palestine. And this is where, aside from our Starbucks boycott, I think we've been out ahead. We've been saying for a pretty long time that post-duopoly at the very least means to us, and we don't have all the answers. Nobody does. At the very least, it means grassroots, people-powered movements outside of the two-party system. And that kind of boycott, that's the only real political power you have left. You don't look, we have especially on Israel. Where's your choice? Who do you vote for?
Exactly.
How do you vote against Israel? Donald Trump's not against this.
Yeah.
Donald Trump will be at least as extreme as Joe Biden, at least his rhetoric would indicate that. So how are you going to impact the system you got to boycott Israel. You have to support boycotts of Israel. I have reached out to BDS. So far, they haven't gotten back to us. Maybe I'll try again. I would like to get a spokesperson on to discuss who to boycott, because that's the only way you can really assert leverage. You're not, no matter who winds up on the ballot in November, they're going to be for supporting Israel.
Of course. Of course. Philip Blair, thanks for the $10. Appreciate that. Collective guilt does not exist. Dr. Viktor Frankl, look at anti-Zionist speech by author of the most influential Holocaust memoir, Man's Search for Meaning. He describes Zionism, Nazi ideology. Thank you, Philip. Palaganda, happy birthday, broski. Thank you, Palaganda. Appreciate that. That's very kind of you. And Mr. Fancy Pants, happy birthday. You'll be happy to hear Cornel West is on the ballot in Alaska. Yeah, he reached the ballot in Alaska. He put out a video.
Did he?
Yep.
Wow.
On the ballot in the critical swing state of Alaska.
Going to shake things up.
Yep. Dave Portnoy is no Morton Downey Jr., says George Gunnell. Thank you for that. Brisk Griff 2, no, not that. I didn't go there because that we left to the doctors, right? So the bris is a Jewish circumcision ceremony. We do continue in the tradition of circumcision in the Weiss family, but we leave that to the doctors. We don't make a show of that or a grift of that. So thank you, Black Freud. All right, we got another. Exactly. We have a related story to the Starbucks story. So Starbucks lost $11 billion in value thanks in large part to consumer boycotts surrounding labor issues, surrounding their crackdown on the union workers who supported a ceasefire within their organization. And now we have another company who made a big decision this year that was formerly associated pretty strongly with the Israeli state. So, Russell, you got this segment too.
All right. So Puma is feeling the pressure. Puma to end sponsorship of Israel's national football team in 2024. The company says the move, planned since last year, is unrelated to boycott calls against it amid Israel's war on Gaza. Right.
We decided this behind closed doors a year ago. We didn't announce it until now.
Yeah, we were keeping it under wraps. It was a birthday present for Keaton.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's a good birthday present because I actually have some Puma merchandise that I got it before I knew they were associated with Israel. Like for years and years and years I've had it. And I like it, so I didn't want to throw it out, but I was going to have to. But now at least maybe, I don't know, this is at least some redemption.
The move was planned since last year and is not related to consumer boycott calls, that's just funny, against Israel amid the Gaza war, the spokesperson for the German sportswear firm said on Tuesday. Puma has long faced boycott calls over its brand alliance with the Israel Football Association, IFA, but such calls have intensified during Israel's 2-month offensive in Gaza, which has killed more than 18,000 Palestinians. In a statement emailed to the Reuters news agency, a Puma spokesperson said the company's contracts with several federations, including Serbia and Israel, were due to expire in 2024 and would not be renewed. Sports brand Puma will stop sponsoring Israel's national football team in 2024, according to a company spokesperson. Oh, that's weird. Like two very controversial countries are the ones that you're not going to sponsor anymore. I guess that was a coinky dink. The spokesperson said Puma would soon announce deals with several new national teams as part of its fewer, bigger, better strategy. Okay, so
I thought that was Taylor Swift's new dating strategy: fewer, bigger, better. But I guess not. That was their business strategy.
There's a lot of memes we should cover. We should cover that. That's the only angle I will cover Taylor Swift from. There's a lot of memes going around saying basically that her parents flew her back and forth to Nashville every couple of weeks, and her father bought a piece of the record company that signed her. She wasn't able to get signed by anybody else until he bought a piece of the company. But we'll say I have to look into whether it's true. But the spokesperson said Puma would soon announce deals with several new national teams. We already read that. An internal Puma memo viewed by the Financial Times, which first reported the news, also confirmed the shakeup. The memo said Puma would continue to evaluate all other existing partnerships, as well as any other upcoming opportunities to ensure we have a strong roster of national teams that are not murdering women and children, the newspaper reported. I added the last part. Puma first signed its contract with the IFA to provide kit to players in 2018. Since then, the company has faced boycott calls from activists who say the IFA also includes teams based in Jewish-only settlements in the occupied West Bank, which are illegal under international law. Global firms supportive of Israel have faced growing boycotts calls by the Palestinian-led Boycott, Divest, Sanctions movement, BDS, before and during the Gaza war. Earlier this week, fashion company Zara pulled an advertising campaign from its website after it drew a backlash for appearing to mimic scenes of suffering in Gaza and sparked boycott calls from pro-Palestine activists. So I think you are undoubtedly going to see more and more of this. So I know a lot of us feel very helpless watching the scenes of horror emerging from Gaza, and to give it to you straight, in a lot of respects, we are in the current moment. But in your we need to turn our despair into some kind of meaningful action to change the dynamics around this. Companies that get in bed with Israel, that do business with Israel, have to know that they're going to face an economic price. The only thing that we have seen in this era of uniparty corruption that in any way creates meaningful change is consumer activity. Those are the wages of a consumer society. Unfortunately, that's what we have, and that is maybe the biggest lever for expressing political activity today. So that is something that we do want to promote. I've been doing research on it, on which companies would be best to target. BDS, they say they don't like to put out a list of all the companies connected to Israel because it just gets too diffuse. They want you to focus on 2, 3, 4. I know HP is a company that gets mentioned a lot in regards to this, but we will do a segment on that probably on the other side of the wall, because who knows what YouTube will do with a segment like that. But hey, keep up the pressure. Keep up the pressure, because not that Israel really gives a shit, but if you want to undermine the power that allows them to do what they're doing today, the path to that is through economic isolation.
Yeah, and the establishment is trying to strip us of that power too. That's what people have to understand. That's why we don't focus on it a terrible amount, but we focus a fair amount on things like ESG scores, social credit scores, things like that. Because, and I talked about this on the Jimmy Dore show earlier this week, that is a way for them to eliminate sort of more traditional market incentives. I forget whether it was, like you, I forget which show. Maybe I did that on Jimmy, or maybe it was RBN, or maybe it was on this one. I don't remember anymore. But this is all an attempt. Yeah, the ESG score, the social credit score, is a way for the oligarchs who have amassed such concentrated wealth over these past 30, 40 years. It's a way for them to dole that out, not according to who has the more marketable products and services, but according to who they like more and who they deem deserving of them. That's a way that they will insulate themselves from things like organized boycotts, or even more disorganized boycotts, right? Even just through the exercise of individual choice, person after person after person. They can insulate themselves from that by creating these alternative marketplaces, which are not dependent on the marketability and viability of your product or service, but based on your virtue, based on how you conform to the ethos of people with concentrated wealth. But for the time being, we're not there yet. And when you see a company like Puma making that call, a company like Zara making that call, they're still in the business of moving product. They're still in the big time schmata business, basically. And if they don't move that product, they don't hit their number goals. And if they don't hit their number goals, they're in trouble. And so, yeah, why should you support any company that is supportive in any way of what's going on in Gaza right now? There's no reason to.
Yeah, and this is all part of something that's kind of in the ether right now. This definitely came up on Jimmy's show. They don't want us. They resent even having to rely on the great unwashed masses as consumers. This came up in a story we're not going to cover because we don't want to torture Keaton with this. But there's been this big blow up in the comic book industry because a guy who owns a comic book shop started talking about how the writers now just do self-inserts and they don't love comic books. And these comic book artists who are very PMC snots called this guy fat, made fun of his appearance and his demeanor, just really snobbish. And one of the most famous comic book artists came to his defense, Mark Millar, and convened I'm not sure if they did it on Spaces or Instagram, but he put together a panel of 7 comic book store owners to talk about their problems. And basically what they said was the industry wants to shift to a business model of selling their products to bookstores and libraries so that they don't have to rely on guys like this. They don't have to rely on actual fans.
Right.
They're trying to do that in every sector of society. And not only do they want to get rid of us as consumers, they want to get rid of us, period, in my opinion. I mean, that is why I think you can't trust the health authorities anymore. You can't trust a lot of these institutions that are meant to protect you. That's why they're telling you that you can be healthy at any size instead of and look, I want to be clear. I know there are a lot of people out there who have tried to lose weight and can't lose weight. And I'm not making the argument, well, it's your lack of virtue. Look at our fucking food chain. Look at the food that we're giving people. They won't address that. That will, A, interfere with capitalism, and B, if you actually solve the medical epidemic of obesity, people are going to be healthy. They don't want you healthy. They want you sick. They want you to die. They don't want people breeding. I mean, that is honestly what I've come to believe. It's the Davos agenda. They are trying to make less of us because they're looking at AI. They're looking at automation. They're saying, what are we going to do with all these mouths? They don't need us as workers anymore, so they would rather just eliminate the population and enjoy a very materially prosperous lifestyle for themselves. What do they need these voters arguing for democratic rights that might disagree with their sensibility, that might disagree with their agenda? I have come to believe that, yeah, they're trying to eliminate the excess population.
Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99. And Israel has depopulated its northern and southern border areas as security zones. Thank you for that. Appreciate the $4.99. Yeah, they have depopulated the northern and southern border areas. Oh, okay. Not just, okay, I see what you're saying. The border areas as security zones. Thank you for that. It's all downhill from here, Keaton. Thank you, Paul Chu. Appreciate that. Samuel Bruce, thanks for the $4.99. Happy birthday. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. T-Bone over on Rumble. We got some Rumble rants. Sorry that I'm just trying to copy and paste into here. Beautiful. Let's see here. Not to worry. You're still 17 years, 4 months, and 8 days younger than Russell. Happy birthday. Oh, wow. Did you figure that out on the fly? You went back and researched Russell's birthday? That's pretty good. Happy birthday, Keaton. Thank you, Warren.
Very good and a little creepy.
Yeah, he went back and probably went back and found it because we put in the title of your birthday stream that we were doing a birthday stream.
Ah, right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
If I were God, I'd give you an entire country in the middle of a fucking desert, but here's a few bucks to buy a sandbox. Thank you. Get your own goddamn flag to plant in it. Well, thank you. It's from Ernest. That was for $100. It's very generous, so thank you. We owe Ernest a cowbell as well. You got a cowbell over there, so thank you for that, Ernest.
So maybe if I ring it softer. So tell me if you hear this.
Yeah, that's good. That's better. Yep.
So maybe if you go too loud, it automatically shuts it down.
Yeah. Yep, that could be something. Always nice to hear the Sumatra music. You guys rock. Thank you. Happy birthday, Keaton. Be proud to be your dad. Well, thank you. Stay the course, gents. Your shoes are great. I would be proud to be your dad. Thank you. Your shoes are great. Shows are great, I assume. That's a autocorrect, lack of autocorrect feature. But thank you, T-Bone. Appreciate that. Warren says, Dr. Shiva, thank you. Perfect. And thanks for covering the boycott stories. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Those are big stories. We've been meaning to do the Starbucks one for a while, actually. Yeah. We just haven't had
Keeps getting bumped by atrocity.
Yeah, exactly. Haven't had a chance to plug it in yet. But all right, let's go to segment number 6. Russell, you got this one too. This was some viral Marianne Williamson video from last night. So go ahead. Why don't you set what we're about to see up here?
Okay, so notorious pathological narcissist and fake candidate for president, Marianne Williamson, went on a show that not only myself, but Keaton as well are too old to have any awareness of who this person is, even though they have 12.6 million followers on Instagram. Lauren Jaragui. See, this was the good thing about when everything went through the studio system. They would have made her change that back in the day.
Yeah, you'd have had to change your name.
When you had to go through 5 layers of corporate management to make it in Hollywood, they would have made her change that. But she's what'd you say, Cuban? Cuban?
Yes. Apparently she's a Cuban, sort of like Instagram influencer, Cuban American. So she's, singer, artist, fashion model, basically an Instagram lottery winner. Somebody who puts themselves up there on social media.
The Instagram
and
lottery.
Boom, now you're big for what reason? I'm not exactly sure. But her politics seem to be pretty good from what I saw from this interview. I didn't watch the whole thing, full disclosure. It was an hour. Didn't have time to do that yesterday. Celebrating my birthday.
One would have to assume that Marianne went on with her not expecting to get real questions.
Right.
And she got them and answered very, very badly. So let's hear what Marianne had to say about Israel re-Palestine.
Someday that you'll go to Israel. I hope someday that you'll go to Israel. Many of the things that you just said that you've seen with your own eyes, I don't think you've seen with your own eyes. Because some of the things that you just said, and I don't think that I've ever been in my life blind to the faults of Israel. And I haven't been silent about them either. Mm-hmm. But some of the things that you just described were simply not the case. Israel is not an occupying force in Gaza. Israelis can't even go into Gaza. Hamas, they cannot even go in. Now the soldiers are in there because of this war that you and I both disagree with.
Okay, so this is so disingenuous, it's mind-boggling. She's really making it sound as if the people in Gaza have autonomy. They're keeping the Israelis out. No, this is like saying, well, no, I mean the guards don't go inside the prison, so the prisoners actually have independence. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That's like saying, the Nazis didn't eat at the Auschwitz mess halls. They didn't eat there.
Right. So clearly the prisoners were running the concentration camp. This is what you're saying. You're saying it's not a concentration camp. It's an independent, autonomous region that Israel doesn't have any control over.
Exactly. Yep.
They're before October 7th.
Excuse me?
They were there before October 7th.
No, Israelis cannot even go. I'm not in any way arguing that the blockade of Gaza was not a good thing. However, Hamas, not all of the misery of the Gazans is due to Israel. And Hamas...
Oh, it's not. It's not. Well, if you're saying it's because of Hamas, I have an article right up here from the New York Times about how they were driving suitcases of money into Hamas under Netanyahu's direction. So even if that premise were true, where did Hamas come from? Who funded Hamas? So ultimately, that goes back to Israel. Look, Marianne is like many Jewish women of her generation. She is clearly a foaming at the mouth Zionist who is trying to present herself as some kind of a progressive option for president, or as her as her latest round of abused staff members claim, doing a book tour under the premise of running for president. Whichever it is, when her natural thoughts and instincts come out before she gets a chance to workshop what position she wants to show to the world, this is what she actually thinks. She's a fucking Zionist. She is a Zionist. To her, Israel is not an occupying force.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, that's the big one.
Right. Israel is not an occupying force. Israel, I mean, I don't know. I mean, credit to the young lady here. I don't know if she had enough knowledge to ask her, well, do you believe in the right to return? Because the gymnastics that would have inspired would have been really entertaining. So Marianne, then, when she got called out for exactly what she actually said.
Yeah, because this went pretty viral. Yeah.
Yeah, she pulled a typical Marianne and denied that she said what she actually said, or what she said meant what it actually meant. There's great misinterpretation of my views, hardly new, bouncing around the internet today. And I'm posting my videos on the subject for those who are interested. I won't be getting into conversation about it on Twitter, but I'd like my actual work to be represented rather than words taken out of context. The entire context is there. Like, it's not like the original video was strangely edited, where he just dropped in one sentence. It was very clear what the context was. I'm not expecting everyone to agree with me, nor is that my goal. But projection and slander aren't the stuff of meaningful debate. Okay, Orb Queen. So let's take a look at what the Topanga Canyon hippie offered in her defense as a contradiction of her own words.
And John F. Kennedy said that if we don't put an end to war, war will put an end to us. And let us make no mistake about it. The situation currently in the Middle East, if uncontrolled, could lead to World War III.
Oh, you think?
The bombing must end. We need a ceasefire. And President Biden's commitment to Israel should not include more and more commitment to brute force, more and more commitment to military action, more and more commitment such as sending ships, like that's going to protect our national interest or even theirs. I call for a ceasefire not only as a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency. I am a Jew, remember, and I understand the fury of the Israelis in this moment. But this is not a moment for us to think only in terms of an alliance with this people or that people. We must be in alliance with humanity right now. This is a call to all humanity.
No, I'm sorry. We must be in alliance with the innocent people of Gaza who are being slaughtered to the tune of hundreds a day. I'm not on the side of the Israeli state.
It's complicated.
Yeah, no. Yeah. This is not about being for these people and against these people. We should be unequivocally against the Israeli government's atrocities in Gaza. And that means solidarity with the people of Gaza. That's not complicated. Shouldn't be too complicated for the so-called progressive alternative to Joe Biden in the race. But notice, I mean, we still have half of this to go. She's not actually addressing what she said in the video.
Not at all.
She's just saying, I want a ceasefire. Leave me alone. Don't bother me. Isn't that good enough?
Right. Yeah, no, this does not in any way change anything she said in that interview at all.
Exactly.
Oh, you're not pro-genocide. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. You know, I've been seeing this whole thing the wrong way.
Find another way. This is a call to all of us to get out of our silos, to realize that an innocent citizen of Israel and an innocent citizen of Gaza, they are both victims of a mentality which does not serve. And it is that mentality which we must move beyond. We need a ceasefire. And every voice that calls for a ceasefire should be given the chance to speak. All of us must remove the hatred for anyone from our hearts right now and speak out of love for humanity and the future of humanity. We need a ceasefire, and we need it now. And when the bombing ends, then we can talk about what to do from an internationalist perspective to save those hostages.
It's funny, you know, I should have pulled this video because RBN started tweeting it out, you know, over the past 24 hours. when you had a conversation with Nick Cruz before this latest incarnation of the war started on October 7th, when you had a conversation with Nick Cruz from RBN about what to do about this, and he started giving you his side of things, you shut him down by accusing him of mansplaining the issue to you. So you didn't seem too interested in actually talking out the politics of the issue before the violence started. And now you're saying, well, we just have to end the violence and then we'll talk about it afterwards. I don't really believe you, because you had a chance to talk about it earlier this year, and you were obviously more interested in getting out of that conversation when Nick started saying, hey, my Palestinian friends are telling me that the two-state solution is a non-starter at this point because of the abuses of the Israeli state. How could you ever establish the level of trust needed to actually form a two-state solution? But she didn't want to have that conversation. And now she's saying we'll have it after the violence ends. Ceasefire now. Yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm sorry.
And it could just be to save the world. Ceasefire. Ceasefire now.
Yeah, so really, this is typical Marianne. This is not the first time that she's turned around and said, no, it didn't mean what I said it meant, and then she doesn't really offer any evidence to contradict it. Like, one has nothing to do with the other. Okay, so you're not an absolute psychopath on this subject. Congratulations. But in the end, you're a Zionist, and you want to just continue this whole game that Israel has been playing for 75 years, pretending to want a two-state solution, even though we know now very clearly Israel itself funded Hamas in order to make sure that there would be no Palestinian Authority with international credibility to actually create a Palestinian state. Israel has never had any intention of having an Israeli state, except perhaps at the end of the Clinton presidency, there was a moment there where it looks like they were seriously considering it. But in the end, the map speaks for itself. The shrinking Palestinian presence in these territories, that's the long-term Israeli goal. And that's something she's never going to address. And it's very much like what she did with Ukraine, which also came up when she talked to RBN. In the end, she supports these policies. She just wants to go up and say, I feel really bad about people dying, and people shouldn't be dying, but not so much so that she's actually going to speak out against the underlying ideas behind these policies. Yeah. No, it's just that was a pretty sad thing to see. And, she did what you shouldn't do unless you can actually make a thing better, which is you have a lousy interview and you address it and you just make it worse when you don't actually address the substance of what was said in the interview. That interview went on for almost an hour. It's very clear from the clip we just showed where she stood on the big question, is Israel an occupying force? I mean, if you don't see Israel as an occupying force, then there's no way to get the issue right, because that's just the underlying truth out of which everything else grows out of, right? Because if you don't understand that it's an occupying force, then you don't really understand what the conflict is about. Right. And where I would love to see all of these PMC commentators who tried to pump up this nonsense, absurd candidacy. I want to see what they have to say now. Are they going to speak out on that? I don't think so. Like they're all running away from Marianne. They're just not mentioning her. They just won't bring up her name. Every now and then, as a drive-by, well, clearly the best candidate in the race is Marianne. Once in a while, they'll say something like that. But I haven't seen them give her a segment. None of them. In months now. Yeah, no, it's been a while. Been a while, for sure. Samuel Bruce, thank you for the $4.99. Happy birthday, Keaton. Thank you, Samuel. Appreciate that. Ashkiro Moxie, why Barry Weiss so cruel and cry victim? It's a danger. Yeah, Barry Weiss just... What was she in the news for recently? Oh, yeah, because she called the guy who was killed. There was a Palestinian who was killed for who it seems was targeted by the Israeli government. He apparently tweeted something out as a joke about one of the, someone else was tweeting out about some atrocity that happened. And he made a joke about it that was clearly meant as sarcastic. And they were accusing her of putting a target on his head by, really amplifying that tweet.
So she was in the news lately for that. I wouldn't go as far as to blame her for anyone's death, because to me, if you're going to be for free speech, you can't do that. You can't go, well, you said something and then this bad thing happened, we're going to connect that to a comment you made. At that point, it's very hard to maintain any kind of free speech. But no, she's awful. I mean, she's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, Barry Weiss has always been an asshole. Glenn Greenwald did a couple of pieces a few years ago exposing her when she left the Times and high judge, or was it when the Times hired her? I think it might have been when the Times hired her to represent a diverse anti-cancellation or, ideologically diverse voice.
Right.
And Greenwald did a couple of articles laying out her history of trying to get Arab pro-Palestine professors canceled and fired when she was at Columbia. And then Weiss wrote a whole Twitter thread denying it. And then Glenn did a follow-up piece showing that she had lied throughout this Twitter thread. So the Free Press has published some really good stuff. But it was always predictable that if anything ever went down with Israel, her true colors would come out.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And obviously, here we are. DC, Puma and Adidas must atone for their Nazi origins. Thank you, DC. Jenna
Adidas
Till.
too? Adidas too?
I don't know where Adidas is from. I'm not sure. Jenna Tills, thank you for the $5. Circumcisions are allegedly painless, but I couldn't walk for a year after mine. Yeah, life comes at you fast. I got around faster after mine because I was 1.5 pounds lighter. Yeah. So it actually had the opposite effect on me.
Yeah, he's like a French Brit, this one.
Yeah. 007 Angelo, thanks for the $2. Same nuts would censor Boston Tea Party messages. Try Hard, thank you. Try Hard 7, thanks for the $2. Was Russell a Howard Stern fan in the 90s? Go ahead, get into that.
I mean, I wouldn't say fan. You know what? People who were really fans were people with normal jobs who would listen to that in the morning. I never had that job, or at night. Well, was he on for drive time coming home?
I thought he was on in the morning, but I could be wrong. I didn't know. I was too young when he was like on the air.
Yeah, like once in a while I might hear some Howard Stern. And yeah, like everyone thought he was funny and edgy and all that. But I just didn't have the kind of lifestyle where I'd be sitting there listening to Howard Stern every day.
Yeah. I mean, by the time I was old enough to appreciate Howard Stern, he was on the internet. He was on Sirius, which I never had. But then I was also, his clips were on YouTube and stuff, and a lot of his longer form stuff got published there. And no, look, he's a tremendous talent. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he's one of the best who ever did it in terms of skill and in terms of talent. He's just become a standard lib at this point. I mean, he's lost all of his edge now. Right. Nabil Brahim, thank you for the $5. No thanks, Boycott has a boycott app. Yeah, it was written by a techie from Gaza. The app is now available for both iOS and Android. Yeah, there was somebody who I did see that on Twitter, but they didn't show what it was. They just showed like the little screen, but they didn't show the name of it. So I'll look that up. But thank you, Nabil. Nabil is a patron supporter who called in. We met Nabil for the first time yesterday, so that was a lot of fun. From the river to the sea, when will the USA be free? Yeah, good one. Thank you for the $5. There was another clip of Marianne litigating that phrase too, in an equally cringe way. There were a few clips from that.
That was the one I originally saw, where she was basically arguing that was an eliminationist phrase.
Yeah.
So she's all in. She's all in with the Zionists, except she doesn't like genocide. So kudos.
Right. Okay. Sorry, just copying and pasting a couple of these things. Okay. Alrighty. Let's go on. We got 2 more segments on the day here, and then we will wrap things up and let you guys get on about your Friday. Michael Rapaport, seen very often roaming the streets of New York City, screaming into the camera, laughing maniacally into the camera before advocating for genocide. Does this sound familiar? Yeah, that Michael Rapaport.
Now, if that doesn't make you a Zionist, what will?
Exactly. He apparently put his money where his mouth was and went to Tel Aviv. He apparently is still there. But when he got there, he appeared on a show called Eretz Neteret. I hope I'm saying that right. Eretz, I'm pretty confident I got that right. And then it's Nehederet. So it's either Nehederet or Neteret. But that translates to a wonderful country. And a wonderful country is, believe it or not, the name of one of the top-rated comedy shows in Israel. We've said this before. Israelis are the only Jews who are not funny. And there's a reason they're not funny. They're not funny because they see vulnerability as a weakness. And in order to be funny, you have to be vulnerable because you have to be able to see the irony within yourself. You have to be able to laugh at yourself before you can laugh at anything else. A person who can't laugh at themselves can never be funny, right? Yeah. And so that's why Israelis aren't funny. And boy, do we have Exhibit A to prove to you how unfunny this show is and how god-awful Michael Rapaport is. This is a Harry Potter parody video that Mike Rapaport made. This cleared the copyright screening, but I'm still a little nervous about the first few seconds because of the Harry Potter score. So we're just going to read the subtitles for the first few seconds until that music cuts out, and then we'll put the volume up here. So this is Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and here's Michael Rapaport. Honorable members of the faculty, we summoned you here today to address the issue of anti-mudbloodism. You can see where this is going.
Yes.
Mudbloodism in Hogwarts. You guys are all professors, which means you're smart, so this shouldn't take long. Let's start with you, Professor McGonagall. Does advocating for the genocide of mudbloods violate the code of conduct on bullying and harassment in Gryffindor?
It's a context-dependent decision, Professor Dumbledore.
Excuse me? How is calling for the genocide of mudbloods not a violation of the rules?
It's a context-dependent decision.
Is that a laugh track or is that
yeah,
real laughter?
Like, who would find this funny, guys?
This is like anti-content. You know what I mean? Because it's so bad. That's what makes it content. But I feel a little weird playing it because it's just so terrible. It's so terrible.
And to broaden it out, fascists never create good comedy.
No,
because
content is shit.
Yeah, because the Italians are some of the funniest people on earth, but you don't have any good comedy under Mussolini because you have to have a sense of humor about yourself to be funny. And when when you have this kind of a fascist ideology, everything is all about punching down. Like, that's a big part of what's not funny about it. And if you look at this, part of the irony of it, which of course Israelis are going to be blind to, is who would really qualify as the mudbloods in this scenario, Jews or Palestinians? Who's really being treated and qualified as a mudblood in this conflict? Who has the power here? And
exactly.
They're just blind to that question.
What the hell's wrong with you, Professor McGonagall? Aren't you supposed to be one of the good guys in this story? You're telling me that calling for genocide is dependent on the context?
Oh, yes. Context. It's a new spell that makes everything that's wrong right. Context.
What a freaking witch. Okay, moving on to you, Professor Sprout. Does advocating for the genocide of mudbloods violate the Hufflepuff Code on harassment? Answer me yes or no. It's a yes or no question. So answer me yes or no.
Yes or no.
Wait a minute.
Ooh, man, that is brutal. Brutal. And the other thing is, they don't understand that the construct is going to wear itself out within 4 minutes. I mean, I feel like we've been watching this a half hour. It's only been a minute and 30 seconds. Because there was UPenn, Harvard, MIT, they feel like they need three people.
Do all three. Right.
You don't. The concept is going to run its course in a minute and a half. You don't have enough material here to get through three of these and have it still be funny. Again, this is why I say not funny. Israelis, the only unfunny Jews on earth.
Are you okay? Did you become mental? Are you mentally capable? How is that not harassment.
Well, if speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
Okay, look, this is a very easy question. Okay, this is not the rules of Quidditch here. You're telling me that calling for the genocide of mudbloods is not bullying or harassment? That's what you're telling me?
Well, it's just words, not even the N-word. When they start killing mudbloods...
Careful.
Then
Yeah,
yes.
careful. And also, what does that even mean? Like, what is that?
what?
Like, that's a punchline somehow?
I'll tell you exactly what that means. They're saying that they privilege black oppression over Jewish oppression.
Yeah, that's a little Juliana Margulies thing going on there.
Very.
Yep.
That would be harassment.
And if they kill all of them, it's classified as bullying and we might take action, depending on the context.
Merlin's fucking beard.
Oh, they can curse
Okay,
on this
Mr.
show.
Snape, I think I can already guess your opinion on the matter.
Well, I'm the more complex character here. On the one hand, as a Slytherin professor, I do have some feelings against them. But on the other hand, as a half-blood myself, I think calling for the genocide is perfectly all right.
You know what you are? You are a self-hating mudblood, which is the worst kind of mudblood.
I prefer...
See, notice. Now that's interesting. I want to play that again. Because notice, that was not meant as a punchline. That's actually a serious point in their view.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That's actually a serious point. So you notice the audience didn't laugh at that. That was not absurd to them. That didn't strike them as clever or funny.
Right.
That he was making a serious point there.
Well, I'm the more complex character here. On the one hand, as a Slytherin professor,
sorry, I fucked it up.
I do have
too
some
much.
feelings against them. But on the other hand,
My fault.
as a
My
half-blood
bad.
myself,
Piss break.
I think calling for the genocide is perfectly all right.
That's
you
some
are?
funny stuff.
You are a self-hating mudblood, which is the worst kind of mudblood.
No
I
laugh.
prefer the term half-blood.
I want to Avada Kedavra myself in the fucking head.
Not
What
punchline.
happened to you all? This used to be a good school when I left you in book 6, which, by the way, was the best one. Have the dark forces penetrated the castle walls? Who was it, Voldemort?
It's the state who must not be named.
Yes, the Qataris.
Really?
Oh, that is brutal.
Yeah, no. And actually, that's something that was. No, you should play that through.
I will.
That was something that was in the New York Times article. The Qataris were the bagmen for Israel. They were the ones they would give the money to give to Hamas.
Yeah. Wonderful. Unbelievable.
How much are they paying you?
Oh, they shit dollars on us.
Give me a figure, like that.
Oh, well.
Just give me something. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you just say that from the start? I mean, for that kind of money, I'd say fuck all the mudbloods myself, and the Jews, too. And if you didn't get the metaphor, that's because you're as stupid as a Harvard graduate. This hearing is adjourned. Let's go get some shish kebab.
If you didn't get the metaphor, it's because you're a stupid. No, we got the metaphor. If anyone laughed at this, they're as stupid as what you would say a Harvard graduate is. But the whole reveal, the whole punchline at the end, which is that they're being paid.
Like we're being paid by the Qataris because we're right. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on my check. All right.
When what's happening in broad daylight is Zionist donors are threatening to pull funding from the universities, and yet you're acting as if there's some pressure from some other group that is heavier on their shoulders.
Yeah, you know what? Because it's short, I'm just going to share this. Israel drove suitcases stuffed with cash into Gaza to keep Hamas in power. And who did they do this with? Apparently, the Qataris are buying people off To keep Hamas propped up, Netanyahu's government worked with Qatari to keep the money flowing, the New York Times reported. Israel knew that Qatar was supporting Hamas but didn't oppose the payments and even lobbied American lawmakers not to sanction Qatar. In 2018, Netanyahu's administration came up with a plan, according to the New York Times. As part of a peace agreement with Hamas, Qatar would bring millions into Gaza to distribute to Gazan families, the outlet reported. Israeli security officials would meet with a Qatari diplomat at the border between Israel and Jordan. They would then drive him past the border crossing and into Gaza, according to the outlet. Okay, so this is the Qatari who's buying off the anti-Zionist Jews.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that whole video was just it's incredible. That's one of the top-rated comedy shows in Israel. For the source I saw said it was the number one comedy show in Israel.
That's the number one comedy show in Israel. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Absolutely insane.
Nation of fucking morons.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's what I said. It's if you have no sense of irony about yourself, if you have no sense of humor about yourself, right? If you see yourself as on a mission to reclaim what was stolen from you and what is rightfully yours according to God himself, how can you be funny? Like, you have to have a sense of humor about yourself. You have to be able to laugh at yourself before you can laugh at anything. People who can't laugh at themselves can never be funny.
Well, that's why any kind of ideological extremism kills comedy. That's why woke comedy is a contradiction in terms.
Right.
Like you can't
Sarah
be
Silverman used to be hilarious.
Committed. Right.
And then she caved in to the woke mob, and then now forget it. She's awful.
Right. And any kind of absolutism like that. Like you don't have funny comedies coming out of theocracies. Right? And anything that's that ideologically committed can't be funny.
Exactly. Home Depot is a massive Israel supporter. If it matters to you, consider shopping at Lowe's. You can find the same schmata items at Lowe's. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, I knew that about Home Depot. Russell, you're mostly correct. They need people to hang around a little longer until the robots are good to go. T-Bone. Well, that's what we said. The boycotts still work in the meantime, of course. Do they need a P-tape hanging over... Do they have a P-tape hanging over Marianne's head? T-Bone, that's funny.
I don't think they need one.
I think this was Warren. The irony of Marianne asking others to get out of their silos. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Warren. And Warren, you also mentioned something about a BDS interview, but I was too slow on that one to put it up here. The scroll got it away from me because, like I said, I don't have Jake today. But I saw that one too, and I thank you for that too. He said props to Russ for thinking about doing that. So thank you. I caught this happy birthday. That was a $69 donation, so we need a cowbell for that one. We got a cowbell, Russell, for that donation. That was a big one.
All right.
Indeed. So, beautiful.
That worked. I'm leaning back on it.
Sean Donley, thanks for the $9.99. Happy birthday, Keaton. I gave on Russ's too, but I don't remember when that was or how old he is. Congrats on the show. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that very much.
Nor do I, my friend. Nor do
I. Spade 2187. Thanks for the $4.99. Hey, fellas, I remember when Russ talked about taking cold showers when Jimmy was on. I was curious how it's beneficial. Great stuff, as always.
Well, it boosts your dopamine levels more than cocaine does, actually. And it lasts longer than cocaine.
It makes your dick shrink too, so Russell could finally fit into a pair of jeans.
Yeah, that's that. Now I can wear my old stretchy jeans from the aughts, without shocking the neighbors.
Exactly.
You get that thing away from me. So it lowers stress levels. It lowers blood pressure. And I will say it also, you do build up a tolerance. Like I used to be one of those people when I went to the beach who like tortured myself instead of just ripping off the Band-Aid. I'd go in a little bit and now it's like, it's nothing to me. But yeah, it puts you in a good frame of mind, for the day. I do other things too. That's all. If you look at, Wim Hof, there's actually an app that you can get on your phone and it's free of Wim Hof techniques. So I also do breathing, which kind of goes with the cold shower, like breath holds and stuff like that.
Tom, thanks for the $4.99. Adidas and Puma split from the same family-owned company after a feud. Oh, like the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Interesting. Thank you, Tom. Didn't know that. Would you say Marianne is arguing in bad faith? Yes, TM. Thank you. Good one, Shina Billy. Russell, you got your mic good to go again?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, good. I thought so. You had a little problem there, but we need the singing, but we need the cowbell rather out again. Martin R. $49.99. Thank you, Martin. That's very kind of you. Appreciate all the generosity today, folks. Thank you very much for that. SB, thanks for the $5. The Black Authority last stream 1 hour mark has been saying the elites want to depopulate the cities. It started with the hood. Now it's everyone else. Well, yeah, I said this on the Jimmy Dore show too. The solution to climate change is not to fix the climate for people. It's just less people, right? I mean, that's it. And that makes the world more livable for those who are here. Egg64. Thanks for the $5. Happy birthday, Keaton. Yep, Russell, would you ever think of doing a segment talking about Instacart or gig work and crap that goes on with it? I got stories for days.
Well, that's more Keaton's department.
Yeah, I've been talking. Yeah, I'm the gig worker. I'm the Instacart guy. Uber, Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, and Instacart. I drive for all of them. Not as much as I used to, thankfully, because you guys have stepped up and supported this show. I owe that to you guys. But yeah, I have done a lot of it. And I actually did want to convene a sort of roundtable, like a sort of panel with drivers to talk about how it is, to talk about, not only the difficulties of the job, but also I think it would be really helpful to people who do that kind of gig work to see, sort of meeting of minds about how to get the most out of it that you can. And so, yeah, send us an email if you want to be a part of that, because we were going to have one of our ex-friends on to do that, but she no longer watches the show. We're too anti-genocide for her taste, apparently, so she quit. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, her.
Oh, yeah, that one. Well,
who was very nice. She gave us the cowbell, but then she got mad at us.
She got mad. We were not genocide supporters. James drives for Uber.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that would be great. I would love to do that. So yeah, dissidents@gmail.com if you want to reach out. We could put that together. It's something I really wanted to do, and we just never put it together. But if I can get like 4 or 5 people on, we would love to do that. I'd love to do that. Love you guys, says Mimi. Love you, Mimi. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for that. We appreciate you. Okay, we'll take some more super chats, round everything out after this one final segment, but we do have one final segment. Russell made mention of this earlier in the stream. This is a piece of reporting that aired on CNN from international correspondent Clarissa Ward. And this is really shocking video of southern Gaza. This is Clarissa visiting a field hospital in the region that people were told to evacuate to. There's no graphic violence in this footage. We can't show that stuff here, but it is emotionally very intense, and this is really amazing to see this on a corporate media outlet. CNN has done this from time to time. They did a segment on the new Nakba where they really show what it actually means to evacuate from north to south, right? Because if you listen to the guy like Mark Regev, he'd say it's a relatively simple process to evacuate from north to south. But CNN has done a couple of these over the course of this war, and this is a pretty amazing segment. So let's take a look.
You don't have to search for tragedy in Gaza. It finds you on every street, strewn with trash and stagnant water, desolate and foreboding.
So we've just crossed the border into southern Gaza. This is the first time we've actually been able to get into Gaza since October 7th, and we are now driving to a field hospital that has been set up by the UAE.
Up until now, Israel and Egypt have made access for international journalists next to impossible, and you can see why.
Since October 7th, the Israeli military says it has hit Gaza with more than 22,000 strikes. That by far surpasses anything we've seen in modern warfare in terms of intensity and ferocity, and we really, honestly, are just getting a glimpse of it here.
22,000 strikes. I want to do some just quick, simple math here. I didn't think to do this before the show. What is this war gone on? roughly, 68 days, we'll say, October 7th to December 15th. 22,000 divided by 68. 323 strikes per day. Divided by 24, 13 strikes per hour. A strike less than every 5 minutes. Think about that.
Yeah,
less than 5 minutes apart for 2.5 months straight.
Yeah, there was also an article that dropped in the last couple days about how they're mostly using dumb bombs, meaning bombs that are indiscriminate.
Right. Yeah.
Despite Israel's heavy bombardment, there are people out on the streets. A crowd outside a bakery. Where else can they go? Nowhere is safe in Gaza.
Used to be a stadium.
Arriving at the Emirati Field Hospital, we meet Dr. Abdullah Al-Nakbi. No sooner does our tour begin when...
Our ambulance. That's a real life.
And this is what you hear all the time now?
Yes. At least.
Just walking through, another bomb goes off. The guy doesn't move a muscle, doesn't faze him at all.
Yeah.
He says, this happens every few minutes. Incredible.
20 times a day.
20 times a day.
20 times a day.
Maybe more sometimes. But I think we get used to it.
Get used to it. How do they know that's not going to hit them? They don't know that.
Right? No, they don't.
They don't know that.
No, they could get hit any second.
Yeah. Yep.
Thing none of the doctors here have got used to is the number of children they are treating. The UN estimates that some 2/3 of those killed in this round of the conflict have been women and children. 8-year-old Janan was lucky enough to survive a strike on her family home that crushed her femur but spared her immediate family. She says she's not in pain, so that's good. Her mother, Hiba, was out when it happened. I went to the hospital to look for her, she says, and I came here and I found her here. The doctors told me what happened with her, and I made sure that she's okay. Thank God. They bombed the house in front of us and then our home, Janan tells us. I was sitting next to my grandfather, and my grandfather held me, and my uncle was fine. So he is the one who took us out. Don't cry. But Dr. Ahmed Al-Mazraoui says it is hard not to.
I work with old people, like adults, but with children, something touching your heart.
Touches your heart and tests your faith in humanity. As we leave Janan, Dr. Al-Nakbi comes back with the news of casualties arriving from the strike just 10 minutes earlier.
We just got us. They will send right now 2 amputated young male from just the bomb.
From the Qasif we just heard, from the bomb we just heard?
This is my understanding.
Okay.
All right. Now, that's all we can show you because the next shot is people, as he just said, amputees being wheeled in with their legs blown off just from the strike that they heard or that they got on camera. When they walked into the hospital, when they first walked inside, you heard boom. They said, what's that? He says that happens about 20 times a day, sometimes more. And then they filmed that little segment there. And then a few minutes later, the guy comes in. Hey, there's people who have been injured who are going to come rushing in to the field hospital now, who were injured in that explosion that they caught on camera. Right. And so that whole segment's about 9 minutes. It's on Twitter. I'll tweet out. I thought I tweeted out the whole segment. If not, I will after the show. You should go watch it. That's all we could show you here in East Berlin. But yeah, just an incredible segment. And, you know, CNN has done that from time to time. And as Russell said earlier in the stream, it's amazing to see that airing on the corporate airwaves. That's how you know there's been a change in narrative and a change in the way the population, our population, is expected to process what's happening.
Yeah, and if you present that to Zionists, they're going to tell you that the media is biased against Israel.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And they're going to tell you that these are crisis actors and that Hamas is only showing you what they want you to see, and that they led around the CNN people. Apparently, this is the first CNN crew that was allowed in without the IDF, that was allowed to just go cover it on their own.
Well, if you notice, one of the first things she said was, we haven't been allowed in Gaza, and now we know why. That was one of the first things she says in the segment. Yep.
This is remarkable to see this kind of critical coverage of Israel. And I think it is partly that the times have changed. It keeps reminding me of one of my favorite movies is with Peter O'Toole. It's called The Ruling Class. And he's this British aristocrat that went off and lived on a commune. So he's kind of gone off the reservation. And he comes back because his father dies. He has to take his seat in the House of Lords. And they ask him, they say, "Oh, the British Empire." He says, "Oh, yes, you can't kick the natives in the back streets of Calcutta anymore."
Right.
That I keep thinking of that when I look at the way that Israel and Zionists are trying to spin this. It's like British people trying to defend the British Empire circa 1970. It just doesn't play anymore. You can't get away with this anymore. It is the whole world is watching, has never been more true in a world of social media, in a world where people are all able to see what Israel is actually doing. And even their usual reliable narrative managers in the mainstream media just are not going along with it. There's another article that just came out from CNN, but I think AP covered this story too. We'll probably do it on Sunday. These Israeli soldiers are so used to having impunity, and they're so sick in their minds. They're posting videos of themselves attacking food supplies, burning food in Gaza, going through the underwear drawer of an Arab woman and humiliating her, breaking stuff in a shop for no reason whatsoever, no military reason at all. You're really seeing the true face of the Israeli state. And it's cold comfort to the Palestinians, but Israel is never going to be viewed the same way again after this. It's never going to be able to credibly present itself as a member in good standing of the international community.
Yeah. No doubt about that. No doubt about it. Cool Blue, thank you for the $4.99. Perhaps people in performing arts who are stars, whatever level, ruin themselves when their politics outshine their art. Yeah, well, I mean, that certainly happens now because their politics are such shit. And that's a reflection of their art being such shit, you know? Like I always said, like back in like the second term of the Bush administration, you actually had good, like, political art. You know, movies like Syriana or Good Night and Good Luck, you know, like those are actually good because they actually meant something in the time. Now it's all just, you know, Trump derangement syndrome. Jimmy did a segment on Robert De Niro, went off on some rant out of nowhere at, what was that, a film festival, something like that? Yeah, it's just, none of it means anything. It's all just garbage. Sparky, thanks for the $5. Despite being German, Adidas got big from making track shoes for Jesse Owens. Thank you, Sparky.
Really?
Yeah, it's a very, like I said, our audience is the smartest audience. They know everything. You guys know everything.
Our people are the best people.
We have the best people. We have very smart people. A lot of very smart people are saying Adidas got rich making shoes for Jesse Owens.
We love the poorly educated.
We believe it. Yeah, exactly. To be fair, says George, thank you, George, Howard Stern lifted his style from Steve Dahl primarily and many others. Best material was when he had writers solo. He stinks. Happy birthday, Kay. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I didn't listen to enough of his show to really say like about his content. I just know in terms of technique, like as an interviewer, that's mostly when I would listen to him, when he had a guest on who I liked, or if a clip went viral for being really funny, I would watch it, you know, and stuff like that. So I thought he had great technique. You know, the substance of the Howard Stern show, I didn't listen to enough of it to really say that. But just as a broadcaster, as an interviewer, you know, the rhythm, the delivery, the depth of research he would do into his guests before interviewing, he would ask questions. This would happen as a matter of routine. He'd ask a question and somebody would be like, how the hell do you know that? He's like, so in high school, you did the blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what? How the hell did you find that out? That's true. Yeah. So, no, I mean, he was great at his craft.
Remember, back then, that was, you didn't have the internet. I mean, not really. Not like you do now.
Not like now.
So there was just nothing like that. There had never been. And actually, I believe he started in the 80s. So there was just absolutely nothing like Howard Stern. It was so boundary crossing and shocking. Now you got 8 million people online.
Oh yeah, of course,
doing edgy material, but nobody had ever done that in that format. It was a very staid, sedate format. The morning drive time, like in a lot of ways, he invented the morning zoo kind of show as we know it.
Right. Exactly. Kuznetsky Bassane, siege mentality, siege comedy. Yeah, indeed. Where's Kill? Thanks to the $5. A little geld for Keaton. Congratulations on your success. Thank you, Where's Kill. Appreciate that.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm doing a tour tomorrow, and he's like schlepping dominoes.
Yeah, I'm back to schlepping tomorrow. Hey, fellas. Happy birthday, fellow former gig worker. Thank you, Henry. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, the chat seems to like the idea of doing a gig worker roundtable. That might be fun. That might be something worth doing. But I think that wraps up our show today. We thank you all very much for being here. It has been a long week. Like I said, Russell put in the Broadway schedule. 7 shows, 6 days. That is something else. So
look, I don't know how those people do that. Yeah, quickly, right out of college, I got hired to be in Tony and Tina's wedding in Chicago. And I got a taste of what that's like to do 7 shows a week.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
It's miserable because it takes all the creativity and craft out of it. If you're any good, you pretty much explored all the parameters within a couple of weeks.
Right. Exactly.
And then that's it. You're just a dancing monkey after that.
Yeah, at that point, it's about repeating the performance. It's crazy. I got a taste of that when I tour guided a Radio City Music Hall. It was the same hour of material 4 times a day, 5 days a week, giving the same hour of material 20 times a week. And I was only there for a couple of years. But there are people who have worked there for 10 fucking years as a tour guide, literally doing the same hour of material 20 times a week for 10 years. They're not super strict. It's not like you have to be some of the venues are super strict or you got to be word for word. They'll let you make it your own a little bit, but there's only so much you can make your own. It's fucking Radio City Music Hall. You're talking about the artist who designed the floor pattern. You know what I mean? The pattern on the rug. Like there's only so much you could do with that. You know what I mean? So it's more or less the same shit all the time. DD audience, thanks, Kuznetsky is the most moral in the world. Thank you.
The world's most moral audience.
The world's most moral audience. Yes, indeed. Glad Russell appreciates Peter O'Toole in the ruling class. One of his 8 Oscar nominations. Also should have won for 1968's The Lion in Winter.
I love The Lion in Winter. I love it. I've always wanted to stage it, actually.
Yeah, that's a good play for sure. Alrighty, everybody. I believe that is our program. We thank you all.
I thought you got one more super chat in there.
Did I?
In the last minute. Didn't one more come in?
I think Cool Blues was the last one. Cool Blue and Kuznetsky Bassane. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Yep, that was it. We're up to date.
Well, now you got one. Happy birthday, Keaton. You're the same age as my daughter.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you, 007. We appreciate that very, very much, you guys. Dwayne is asking, when is Jimmy Dore on? I think he went Tuesday, Thursday this week because he had Tucker. So I guess he's not on today.
I guess so,
He usually goes Wednesday, Friday, but I guess because the Tucker thing was Tuesday, he had a show on Thursday. So yeah, it was kind of it was a little weird. We didn't know he was on yesterday until he texted us and asked us to join. But thank you guys very much for all the birthday love. I appreciate that very, very much. It's very kind of you to be here. Thanks for coming in at this special time slot. We will be back here on Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, if you really want to make my day, go to Patreon and become a member. And if we get enough of you guys to do that, we'll be at 4 streams a week by the end of 2023 and start the year off right, doing this full-time for real. So thank you guys all very much for being here today. Have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend, and we will be back here with you all Sunday night, December 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Until then, please do, of course, be safe and be well. And thanks again for being here today.
Courage.
Please clap.